Page editor and Fox News contributor, and Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst and co-host of The Five. So as I said, Juan, and I saw you kind of shake your head a little bit, you know, people definitely got out over their skis on this story. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, because they saw only part of it. I mean, but to me, the real story here, and there's lots of different angles depending on the visions or perspectives you have, is that you saw today Twitter suspend this 2020 Fight feed website that had been feeding this when they discovered it wasn't a teacher in California, it was somebody in Brazil. And these people have been trying to divide us, Martha, quite intentionally, and the mainstream media and others have picked it up because now kind of both extremes, far left and far right, have their own narratives and seek to somehow take advantage of this. In addition, we just saw additional video come forward of some young women who ran into this school group and said they were shouting offensive things to them before the encounter with the Native American.
But it goes back, Dan, to me, and I watched most of the main video, and then I saw the one that Juan refers to today. Is this issue of just everyone knows what's in everybody's heart, apparently. Everybody digs it. You know, these boys are bigots. Their parents are, horrible people for raising such bad children. All across the board, everybody just already knows what their intentions are.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right, Martha. But it's intriguing here. You have just said some of them think they're bigots. Juan was saying the remarks and the behavior were offensive. The one word neither of you have used that we have heard several times here in the opening was racist. Is the President of the United States, as Bernie Sanders says, a racist? And I think racism is one of the most serious charges you can make against somebody. The idea that some class or ethnic group of people are somehow genetically inferior and ought to be repressed. That is the understanding of racism. And the left has now begun to use this word over and over again, I think, as a kind of form of moral imperialism to drive their opponents out of the political debate and simply silence them. So the idea that Make America Great hat, again, is racist is simply a corruption of language.
Yeah, it seems to me you can look at words and you can look at actions, right? And so, I know there are definitely moments in this presidency that people feel the president spoke in a way that was racially insensitive. Charlottesville, for example, okay? But you go through the actions of the presidency, the policies of the presidency. Are they racist? I mean, is the argument that's being made by these Democratic candidates that there's this blanket racism charge that applies to this presidency is tougher, I think, when you dig into his actions.
I don't. I've written a book on this subject. What the hell do you have to lose? Trump's war on civil rights. And let me just say, Martha, that, Fox polls, Quinnipiac polls say about half of Americans say the president is a racist.
Do you think that's partly because they're told that every single day?
I don't think that. I think people are smart enough. I think Americans are smart enough. I think, by the way, I couldn't agree with Dan more. It's just a difficult word to get out of your mouth. I don't want to say it about anybody. I think it shuts down conversation, shuts down the ability for us to hear each other.
What do you think about all those Democratic candidates saying
But no, I mean, if you spoke to something that's very important, policy. And when you look at his policy in terms of voter suppression, voter ID, when you look at the biggest civil rights issue on the map today, Black Lives Matter, the police relationship with communities, his Justice Department pulling back from consent decrees. You look at education, again, opposition to minority affirmative action, saying, oh, Asians are discriminated against or whites are discriminated against. What we see here consistently with calling the NFL players who are out against police brutality SOBs that should be fired. Maxine Waters, a low intelligence person. That kind of rhetoric, even Republicans, let me just say, Republicans, 22% of Republicans in the poll I cited say Trump has emboldened racists in our society.
Dan, I'm going to let you respond to that, then we're going to Trey Gowdy.
Well, I mean, the remarks are often boorish and offensive, but they're not racist. I flatly do not believe.
What about policy that one refers to?
You can have disagreements over policy, over questions like affirmative action, whether such the Asian lawsuit up at Harvard questions the issue of affirmative action, whether we should find a better way forward. That is an argument worth having and how it's affecting the lives of Black Americans. But to simply dismiss Donald Trump and all of his supporters as racist is a corruption and a destruction of argument.
I agree with that, by the way. It's not blanket.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be at all. But that is where we are.
That is where we are, sadly. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Good to have you both here tonight.
Thank you, Martha.